Our top story, polling has begun in the troubled northeastern state of Manipur, where the BJP-led alliance is hoping for a second term in power in a multi-cornered contest. 38 of the state's 60 seats vote amid a tight security. From 7 this morning is when the voting began. The first phase of polls covers 29 seats in Manipur's valley districts. The rest are in the hill districts. In the first phase, a total of 173 candidates are in the fray, including 15 women. And the Chief Minister and BJP candidate from Hengang and Biren Singh, who you saw casting his vote there, is one of those who's contesting today in the first phase. BJP is fighting alone on all seats. Besides the BJP, the Congress and Meghalaya Chief Minister Conrad Sangma's National People's Party is also in the fray this time, contesting 38 seats, and JDU is a surprise entrant in the elections this time. Let's go across to NDTV's Ratnadeep, who joins us from the polling booth where Biren Singh just cast his vote. Ratnadeep, polling has begun. Give us the latest.
That's right, polling has begun in all the 38 seats, and in fact in the first 1 hour we are yet to receive the official percentage of the poll which has been casted already, but in the first hours we saw that the turnout is little less, also for the fact that it has been a quite a cold morning this morning in Imphal. Remember, these 38 seats are in state capital Imphal, so today is the battle for Imphal, and both the Imphal East and the Imphal West districts, which are dominated by the Meitei community. You can see here, if I can ask my camera person to pan, there is a turnout now. There is people are coming out, and in fact over 12 lakh voters are going to cast their votes to decide the fate of not only Chief Minister Biren Singh, who had cast his vote a short while back in this polling booth in Hengang constituency in Imphal East, but also the Deputy Chief Minister Y. Joy Kumar Singh, as well as Senior Minister Bishwajit Singh, the Speaker Khem Chand Singh, the former Congress Chief of Manipur and BJP leader Govind Das Konthojam, and not to forget the lady police officer who led a crusade against drug mafias in Imphal and then left her police job to join politics. Brinda Devi, her fate will be decided. And up in the hills in Saikul, a very interesting fight within a family of the Hauke family, where the father and the daughter are contesting from the BJP and the Congress. And having talking about political parties, it is going to be a crucial election for the BJP. Remember, the last election, the mandate was a fractured mandate, and Congress emerged as the single largest, but BJP cobbled up numbers. But this time BJP is fighting alone in all the seats. In fact, in this phase, BJP is the only party fighting in all the 38 seats. However, BJP key allies, NPP, putting up a strong contest against BJP in some of the seats. You have also JDU, a lot of BJP rebel candidates actually contesting on JDU tickets. So that is also a factor in this phase of the elections. Here we have some people here in the voters. भाई साहब, आपसे थोड़ा बात करेंगे. क्या नाम है आपका? You are from this constituency. This time we saw that before the elections.
Can you speak in
Hindi? Okay. इलेक्शंस के आगे हमने देखा कि बहुत वायलेंस हुआ है मणिपुर में. हाँ. सो लोगों को क्या लग रहा है इस बार पॉलिटिकल वायलेंस इतना ज्यादा हुआ है मणिपुर में?
इसके बारे में तो मुझे ज्यादा तो नहीं बोलना है, मगर यहाँ पे आयोग केंद्र में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है. वहाँ पे कांग्रेस एंड बीजेपी, वहाँ पे कुछ ऐसा कि कांग्रेस पहले बीजेपी को हराना चाहता है, इसलिए वहाँ पे कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है यहाँ.
मगर ये जो इस बार जो कैंपेन रही, जहाँ पे कांग्रेस ने अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की बात की, वुमेन रिजर्वेशन की बात की, और बीजेपी ने पीस डेवलपमेंट की बात की है, इस कैंपेन को आप लोग किस तरह से देखते हैं? वोटर
हम लोग तो यहाँ पे बीजेपी की साइड में तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो रहा है. पीस तो होने वाला है यहाँ पे अभी हैंगांग केंद्र में तो.
So there you can see these gentlemen clearly saying that at least in this area there have not been any pre-poll violence. However, we did see even after 2 days back one of the JDU candidates being shot who was from Kshetrigaon constituency, and therefore security arrangement had been beefed up rather in all the polling station. Over 1700 polling stations are there. There are all the polling stations are being manned by central security forces. In fact, a short while back I did speak to the Chief Minister before he had casted his vote. Let's listen in what Manipur Chief Minister and Biren Singh had to say about the elections, about the first phase of the elections exclusively to NDTV. You can see here Chief Minister N. Biren Singh in the queue waiting to cast his vote. Sir, good morning. Very crucial elections for you. What is your feeling? You're tensed. You have been campaigning very hard.
Just I am feeling good. I am feeling good, and yesterday till the late night, I am collecting information from all the constituencies, which is going to be cast today. And I found and I got positive response from my AC also. I am expecting full majority, and I will get 75%.
When you say you are getting 75% of the seats, you mean you are getting at least 40 seats?
Yeah, just I'm talking 75% here in my constituency, and the 40 seats in my the entire state.
But about this phase, if you look at these 38 seats and the entire Imphal Valley goes to polls, the Kuki Heartland goes to polls, very important vote bank for the BJP.
Very important. Just we will cross 30. Out of this 38 seats, just we will cross 30. Don't worry.
But in these elections there is no clear alliances, in the sense that BJP is fighting all the seats alone. Your allies are fighting against you. NPP is there, NPF is there in the hills, and you also have JDU. The Congress last time emerged as the single largest party. So do you see that there can be a fractured mandate this time as well?
No, earlier the people of the state has tested the coalition government performance. And the people are not satisfied with the coalition government. So this time there will be no coalition. There will be BJP, only BJP government. And I am very hopeful, very, very hopeful. At least the BJP will form the government.
One last question. Will the first phase actually pave the path to your coming to power second time and becoming chief minister second time?
Exactly. This is very crucial, and this out of this 38 seat, we will definitely get 30 seats.
In Imphal, Ratnadeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
All right, let's now get to the very latest on the Ukraine crisis. And Ukraine has agreed to hold talks with Russia on the Belarus border, and that's expected sometime today. We're waiting for an exact time. This as Vladimir Putin ordered his defense chiefs to put the country's nuclear deterrence forces on high alert. He also accused the West of taking unfriendly steps against his country. International tensions are soaring over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and Putin's order is causing further alarm. Moscow has the world's second largest arsenal of nuclear weapons and a huge cache of ballistic missiles, which form the backbone of the country's deterrence forces. Russian ground forces have pressed into Ukraine from the northeast and south, but have encountered fierce resistance from Ukrainian troops, the intensity of which has likely surprised Moscow, this according to Western sources. Let's take a look at what Putin said.
Уважаемые коллеги, вы видите, что западные страны предпринимают не только недружественные действия в отношении нашей страны в экономической сфере, я имею в виду нелегитимные санкции, о которых все хорошо знают, но высшие должностные лица ведущих стран НАТО допускают и агрессивные высказывания в адрес нашей страны. Поэтому приказываю министру обороны и начальнику генерального штаба перевести силы сдерживания российской армии в особый режим несения боевого дежурства.
Ukraine President Zelensky tweeted that Ukraine has submitted its application against Russia to the International Court of Justice, and Russia must be held accountable for manipulating the notion of genocide to justify aggression. We request an urgent decision ordering Russia to cease military activity now and expect trials to start next week. He also said 352 civilians have died in Ukraine, including 14 children, and 1,684 people, including 116 children, have been wounded, Kiev further said.
Скажу відверто, як завжди, я не дуже вірю в результат цієї зустрічі, але нехай спробують. Щоб потім у жодного громадянина України не було жодного сумніву, що я як президент, не намагався зупинити війну, коли був нехай і маленький, але все ж таки шанс.
Now, India has once again abstained from a vote at the UN Security Council, an emergency meeting that was called for calling a special session of the UN General Assembly. The UN Security Council convened on Sunday at the request of the US and Albania to vote on a resolution calling for a special session of the General Assembly over the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The goal of the General Assembly special session will be to force the 193 members of the UN to take a position on the conflict and Russia's violation of the UN Charter, as well as to formally condemn the war. Here's what India's representative at the UNSC said.
It is regrettable that the situation in Ukraine has worsened further since the Council last convened on this matter. We reiterate our call for immediate cessation of violence and an end to all hostilities. There is no other choice but to return back to the path of diplomacy and dialogue. Our Prime Minister has advocated this strongly in his recent conversations with the leadership of the Russian Federation and Ukraine. In this regard, we welcome today's announcement by both sides to hold talks at the Belarus border. The global order is anchored on international law, UN Charter, and respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of all states. We are all agreed on these principles. We continue to be deeply concerned about the safety and security of Indian nationals, including a large number of Indian students who are still stranded in Ukraine. Our evacuation efforts have been adversely impacted by the complex and uncertain situation at the border crossings. It is important to maintain an uninterrupted and predictable movement of people. It is an urgent humanitarian necessity that must be immediately addressed. Taking into consideration the totality of circumstances, we decided to abstain.
Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi told officials yesterday evening that ensuring the safety of Indian students and evacuating them from war-hit Ukraine is the country's top priority, according to sources. The comments were made at a high-level meeting that was chaired by the Prime Minister on Sunday evening. This after he returned from Uttar Pradesh, where he had spent the day campaigning. It was discussed to further enhance cooperation with neighboring countries of Ukraine to expedite the evacuation. Around 16,000 Indian nationals, most of them students, have been trapped in Ukraine. Also, a dedicated Twitter handle has been set up to assist in the evacuation of Indians from Ukraine, and all Indian students can reach out to this handle. Also, various numbers have been provided, helpline numbers have been provided from various embassies that can be contacted by the Indian students who are stranded there on the borders of Ukraine and in Ukraine as well. Meanwhile, the fifth Operation Ganga flight carrying 249 Indian nationals who were stranded in Ukraine took off from Bucharest, Romania, and has arrived at the Delhi airport. So much relief as yet another flight. This is the fifth flight that has arrived carrying stranded Indians, mainly students from Ukraine. Let's just listen into what some of them had to say.
So my name is Prachi Priyambada, and I was a medical student. I am a medical student over there. I was studying in Ukraine for 3 years. At the border, while there were very rashkas at the border, but once we crossed it, we felt good that Indian embassy is doing a good job over there.
My name is Panchal Prachi, and एक्चुअली हम लोग बॉर्डर क्रॉस करके आए थे, बट हमको इंडियन एम्बेसी ने बहुत ही हेल्प किया, प्रोटेक्ट किया है. हमको कुछ दिक्कत नहीं आई है, सिर्फ बॉर्डर क्रॉस करने में ही दिक्कत आई है बिकॉज ऑफ बहुत सारी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के बच्चे थे. दैट्स व्हाई हमको प्रॉब्लम आई है, बट हमको इंडियन एम्बेसी ने बहुत हेल्प किया.
आज ही हम लोग आए हैं और गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत ज़्यादा हमारी मदद करी है. ऑल्दो जो बॉर्डर के उस पार था वो कंडीशन कुछ अलग ही है, बट जैसे ही हम ये बॉर्डर क्रॉस करते हैं रोमानिया का, उसके बाद जो कंडीशन मिलती है, जो हमें हेल्प मिलती है गवर्नमेंट से, वो वाकई ही बहुत ही सराहनीय है कि हम लोग बहुत ही ज़्यादा अप्रिशिएशन करते हैं गवर्नमेंट का कि काफ़ी ज़्यादा अच्छी फैसिलिटीज़ प्रोवाइड करी हैं.
Well, let's go across to NDTV's Akshay now for more. So, Akshay, very welcome. Now a fifth flight has arrived with students, many of them relieved to have been finally evacuated from Ukraine.
Well, exactly. Now, this is the fifth flight under the Operation Ganga mission that was started by the government of India. approximately 1,200 people, 1,200 Indians have already reached back to their home. But there are still around 14 to 15,000 students that are still stuck in different parts of the country. The biggest concern that remains is about the students who are stuck in regions like Kharkiv, in Ivano-Frankivsk, because these are the regions where the conflict is escalating each and every passing minute. In fact, in Kharkiv, we have seen the reports how the Russian forces have been bombarding the entire area. There has been a fight going on between the Ukrainian forces and the Russian forces. So the students, while are there, they are expecting for some more help as far as evacuation is concerned. The big concern that remains, as the students were also mentioning, is regarding the border areas of Romania, of Poland, of Hungary, Slovak Republic. So all of these countries that are on the western front, the crowd is huge. It's unprecedented events even for the border guards there. So they do not have, it seems, the required training to handle such crowds. And that is why we are seeing reports coming in every now and then of students being thrashed, students being beaten, and irrespective of the country, the students who are there, the people who are trying to flee Ukraine and reach the Western countries, they are being mishandled in many ways, and there are complaints, yes, coming in that not enough is being done as far as ensuring safety and security of the Indian students at the bordering areas are concerned. So that has to be looked at by the embassy, by the Indian embassy that is there in these countries.
Right, Akshay. In fact, that's been very, very disturbing. You know, we've been talking to these students. Many of them have spoken about how they're in sub-zero temperatures. They're at the border. They're saying they're not being able to reach out. This was yesterday, of course. Since then, India has announced a special Twitter handle with various numbers also. And Poland announced that they would be allowing Indian students to cross over. But there have been these very disturbing reports of students being manhandled, beaten, even women students. And this is at the border. At the same time, we know that there are many students who are currently in hostels, in bunkers, in metro stations, and they too are just running out of any essentials, and it's a big worry for the families here.
Of course, that is the biggest worry, Gargi, because the students who have reached there, in many places, enough arrangement is not there to process all of these documents of the students who are trying to flee the country, trying to escape to the neighboring countries. So the adequate arrangement that was required at the border, that is still not in the place. As far as the students, as you were talking, who are stuck in areas like Kharkiv, in other parts of East Ukraine and North Ukraine that has border with Belarus, that is a big concern. Even Kiev is a big concern because there have been bombardment happening. Russia has been carrying out airstrikes against the air bases and air installations in the cities to disable the air defenses of Ukraine. So that remains a big concern, yes. But the Indian embassy had announced that trains are being run from Kiev to the western part of the country. But still, even after traveling from train, many students are reporting that they have to walk for like up to 8 to 10 hours to reach the bordering areas, and even after reaching there, they have to wait for several hours to, in fact, cross the border and reach the Indian missions and the arrangement that are being done in the Western countries that have a border with Ukraine, Gandhi.
All right, Akshay, thanks so much for joining us with that. So a huge concern for India with so many of our students, thousands of them still stranded there. And over the last couple of days, flights have been coming in. This morning, a fifth flight came in. These flights are coming from Hungary, Poland and Slovak Republic of Romania, which shares the border from Ukraine. Here's a report on the students who've managed to come home.
A sigh of relief for hundreds of families as Indians stranded in war-torn Ukraine return home. The mission evacuation named Operation Ganga by the government. On Sunday, 3 more Air India flights carrying over 700 Indians reached Delhi, 2 from Romanian capital Bucharest and 1 from Budapest in Hungary. For students like Falak Ansari, Ayman Mansoori and Prerna Gupta studying at Bukovanian State University in Chernivtsi city in western Ukraine, the last few days have been harrowing. They are relieved to be back home, but not before travelling for hours by bus and on foot to reach the Romanian border.
We crossed the border and came to Romania, and from there Indian government sponsored the flight.
So I'm hearing that a lot of students are stuck there for several hours. They're at the border.
Yes.
What exactly
Yes,
is
sir.
happening? I mean,
We were also stuck for like 3 hours because the border are jammed because Ukrainian people are also immigrating to Romania.
for Supriya Patel and Komal Singh, leaving their Ukrainian friends and teachers behind was perhaps as hard as their arduous journey to the evacuation point.
My mom was crying for a whole day. Now she's happy, she's relaxed. We back to India. But the people over there, the civilians, they are suffering a lot. We feel bad for them. We feel bad for our teachers, our university. They were crying in online classes that we never know that we'll meet again or not.
Thousands of Indians, however, still remain stuck in Ukraine, waiting to be evacuated amid raging conflict.
We are waiting at the border of Romania for more than 24 hours. My friends are waiting here. We are just sitting on the grass in field. We are just sleeping below the sky with nothing, no protection. We are feeling so cold. Its temperature is -2 or -3 degrees Celsius.
At the Polish border too, an unending wait for students.
और हम लोग यहाँ पे फंसे हुए हैं, यहाँ पे कोई व्यवस्था नहीं है। हम लोग पोलैंड बॉर्डर पे 30 किलोमीटर पैदल चल कर गए, वहाँ पे पता चला वहाँ कोई व्यवस्था नहीं है। फिर वहाँ से बोला है कि तुम लोग वापस चले जाओ जहाँ से आए हो। फिर 30 किलोमीटर चल के वापस आए।
And there are students who are stuck in the conflict zone like Kharkiv. These students are appealing to the government for help.
मैं अभी भी बेसमेंट में फंसी हुई हूँ और अभी भी मैं खाकर नहीं हूँ और इस टाइम जो है मेरे को बहुत ज़्यादा शेलिंग की आवाज़ आ रही है और हमें नहीं पता कि हमारे पास कब तक सफिशिएंट सप्लाई प्रेजेंट होगी खाने के लिए। तो प्लीज़ मैं गवर्नमेंट को रिक्वेस्ट करती हूँ कि जल्दी से जल्दी यहाँ तक पहुँचा जाए, हमें यहाँ से निकाला जाए।
मेरी बेटी नवरोज कौर खारकिव यूनिवर्सिटी पढ़ती सी और अंडरग्राउंड रह रही 2-3 दिन तो उन्होंने खाना भी एक टाइम का मिल रहा है और बिजली भी किसी टाइम बंद हो सकती है। गवर्नमेंट ਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹਦਾ ਬੰਦੋਬਸਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਇੰਡੀਆ 'ਚ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਦਾ ਉਹਦਾ ਬੰਦੋਬਸਤ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਸਾਡੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਵੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ, ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਪੂਰਾ।
The Indian embassy in Ukraine has urged all Indians to move toward the western part of the country for evacuation. The Prime Minister said that the government is continuously working to ensure safe evacuation of all Indians.
ऑपरेशन गंगा चलाकर हम यूक्रेन से भी हजारों भारतीयों को वापस ला रहे हैं। हमारे जो बेटा बेटी अभी भी वहां है, उनको पूरी सुरक्षा के साथ अपने घर पहुंचाने के लिए सरकार दिन रात काम कर रही है।
Tired, exhausted but glad to be back home is the response of all of these Indians who have finally reached home. Operation Ganga will continue till the last man is rescued from the war on Ukraine. However, thousands of Indians still remain stranded in different parts of the country with limited supplies and escalating tensions. So the execution of this plan remains the biggest concern for all. With camera person Xavier Thomas, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
And Congress leader Rahul Gandhi tweeted on the stranded students. He said, "My heart goes out to the Indian students suffering such violence and their families watching these videos. No parent should go through this. The government of India must urgently share a detailed evacuation plan with those stranded as well as their families. We can't abandon our own people." The Prime Minister did hold a meeting yesterday evening on the student evacuation and the situation in Ukraine. We'll slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll bring you a mother and daughter testimony as the daughter remains stranded in Ukraine. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Prime Minister yesterday evening chaired a high-level meeting on the situation in Ukraine and the evacuation of Indian students from Ukraine, from the war-hit country. He told officials that this is a top priority for the country. Let's go across to Akhilesh for more. Akhilesh, tell us more about this meeting that took place yesterday evening after the Prime Minister had returned from campaigning in Uttar Pradesh.
Well, Gargi, this meeting lasted for around 2 hours and Prime Minister reviewed the situation with the senior officials, and of course, Minister of External Affairs, Mr. Jaishankar, was also present in the meeting. In this meeting, Foreign Secretary made a detailed presentation about the India's evacuation plan, which is called Operation Ganga, and how India has been coordinating with different countries bordering Ukraine to bring back all the students safely back home. Though India is facing difficulty because a lot of students are stuck at different borders, and because there's a large number of Ukrainians also who are trying to leave the country. So Indians are actually part of that big crowd. So it's very difficult for the Indian officials to coordinate with the local officials to get them back. And that is why some difficulties are being faced. So all these issues were raised in this meeting, and it was decided that India will enhance the cooperation with the neighboring countries so to bring all the students safe as soon as possible.
Right, Akhilesh, because, yesterday there were all these disturbing reports of students being manhandled or stranded at the border with Poland, at the border with Romania, and it's sub-zero temperatures there, so many in very, very difficult conditions. And then there are the other students who are stuck in bunkers still, who've not been able to really move out. And they're speaking to their families and talking about how resources are running out.
Absolutely, Gargi, and in fact, the most problems are being faced by the students who are stuck in big cities like Kyiv, where the curfew is going on. The latest advisory by the Indian Embassy in Kyiv says that they should wait till the curfew is relaxed for some time, and as soon as it's relaxed, they should move towards the railway stations and then use the free train service which is going towards the borders. So this is the latest advisory issued by the Indian Embassy in Kyiv. And you are absolutely correct. There are some disturbing pictures, videos, which are being circulated by the worried parents that how some Indian students are being manhandled by the Ukrainian guards at different borders. Though Poland has said it very clearly that the Indian students will not need any visa to enter their country. But as I mentioned earlier, that because the number is so huge, because Indians are just part of a big exodus which has been happening right now, where a large number of Ukrainians also trying to leave the country. So it is very difficult for the local officials to coordinate exactly to evacuate the students. So that is why the efforts needs to be enhanced, and this is what decided in the last night's meeting that India will increase cooperation with the neighboring countries.
All right, Akhilesh, thanks so much for joining us with that. Now to bring to you exactly, what the situation is for some students. Here's an interaction between a mother and a daughter who separated by a war and thousands of kilometers as they console and comfort one another. Shreya Sunil Kumar, an Indian student, is in Kiev, and she says she can hear bombings and gunfire from the bunker that she's taken shelter in. She says she can't even reach the railway station and is asking for transport. This as her mother in Bengaluru exhorts her to be strong.
Smita Durgam, Shreya's mother, is with us as well. Smita ji, I can't imagine what you must be going through right now. What is it that you would like to ask Shreya at this point, and what are your hopes at this point also?
Good evening, ma'am. So the hope is Indian government is going to get all the students back to India at some point of time, but it's only a matter of time. It takes 1 or 2 days more. Shreya, I know you are going through a hardest phase of your life. Be strong at this point, right? And along with you, you have so many other friends. So all of you has to stick together, and you have to walk out of this, right? It's just a big lesson that you have learned here, right? And you are going to come out of this successfully. We want you all back safe and sound. So just keep your guts right and pray for God to come back safe.
Shreya, what are authorities telling you at this point? Is there some sort of time schedule that's been given about when you might expect to move to one of Ukraine's borders, and do you know where you're going to be evacuated from?
The embassy hasn't contacted us. The head of our hostel, his name is Shashank, and there has been no contact with him, and he's with us itself. The embassy has given us an advisory in the morning as of 27th, asking us to go to the nearby railway station. Let me tell you one thing, the railway station, there were shootings heard yesterday in the railway station, and the railway station is flooded. There are no seats left, and we have to apparently still pay for our seats, and we don't know the cost of the seats yet. I just heard a shelling right now. I just heard a bombing somewhere. So the situation right here for us, we cannot move out. The curfew is still on. We are not able to move out. No grocery store is open. And I don't know, like, if the embassy does provide us a bus for everybody of us, we are over 100 students here, ma'am. How do you expect us to go out in groups of 20? That is just not possible. So if the embassy, it's a request to the embassy, if you can provide us a bus. Come on, man, Indian embassy can do so much. At least a minimum bus to go to the nearby railway station. That's all we are asking. Because here, no bus, no cab, nothing is working. You don't expect us to walk 20 kilometers, right? The temperature is -4 outside. What do you expect us to do? It's not possible.
Shreya, your sister is here as well with your mother. Is there anything you would like to say to Shreya right now? I'd like to give the last sort of comment on the show to you. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that I'm going to be back soon. And it's okay. I think we can manage. I'm that strong enough to manage all this. And you're just making me very emotional right now. So that's it. I'm going to be back.
Of course you are, Shreya. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yes, baby. Yeah, you will be back and we are waiting to see you.
Yeah. And we'll see you reunited very soon. Thank you all for speaking with us at what must be such a difficult moment for you. Thank you.
My only request, ma'am, to the embassy is whatever plan you are making, make it fast. I can understand your problems. It's at a very high level. But at least provide some groceries, food supplies to the people who are stuck in the bunkers.
All right, and that is the situation you can imagine of thousands of Indian families as their loved ones are stuck in Ukraine. And now disturbing reports that several Indian students fleeing Ukraine have now alleged they were harassed and beaten by Ukrainian guards at the Poland border and were not allowed to cross over. Many are also stuck at the Ukraine-Romania border. In one of the videos shot during the night, a student wheeling his suitcase is being kicked by a guard in uniform. It's not clear in that video if the student is an Indian, but several other students who've been camped at the Poland-Ukraine border allege that Indian students have been harassed. There's that video. You can see the guard kicking a student there. Now, we also spoke to a female student who described her ordeal. She talks about how students were beaten. She even claims they were tortured. And then she claims that some of the Ukrainian guards even made them play some kind of a game. Listen in.
खोला था, यूक्रेनियंस को घेर लिया था और सिर्फ यूक्रेनियंस को अंदर भेज रहे थे। हम लोग ने बाद में काफी प्लीड किया हमारे साथ, हमारे इंडियन बॉयज ने काफी प्लीड करने के बाद उन्होंने सिर्फ इंडियन गर्ल्स को पहले एक्सेप्ट किया और उसके बाद पुलिस आई और पुलिस ने बहुत मारा इंडियन बॉयज को मारने के बाद दे इवन टॉर्चर्ड बॉयज। और टॉर्चर कैसे किया, जिसको आस्थमा था उसको स्टम्प करके हम सबको दिखाया कि हाउ ही इज ब्रेथलेस। उसके बाद रात को आई थिंक अराउंड 11-12 बजे और यहाँ पे आने के बाद जो गार्ड्स थे उन्होंने बाद में लाइन में हम लोग अंदर गए तो अंदर वीजा में देयर इज सम गेम, कुछ तो जो आपको खेलना है, हंटर गेम करके, मुझे नहीं पता वो क्या होता है। उधर जाने के बाद वो रॉड लेके खड़े थे, गन लेके खड़े थे और फिर उसके बाद हमें उन्होंने बोला कि दिस इज यू हैव टू, आपको ये गेम खेलना है, उससे वीजा मिलेगा। और जो लोग वहाँ पे थे उनको लात से मारा है, हाथ से मारा है, लड़का लड़की कुछ नहीं देख रहे यहाँ पे।
All right, a very disturbing account there by that student. Now, the European Union has announced a wide-ranging new sanctions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, closing its airspace to Russian aircraft and banning Russian state media outlets broadcasting in their bloc. And for the first time, the European Union will also finance, purchase and deliver weapons and equipment to a country under attack.
For the first time ever, the European Union will finance the purchase and delivery of weapons and other equipment to a country that is under attack. First, we are shutting down the EU airspace for Russians. We're proposing a prohibition on all Russian-owned, Russian-registered and Russian-controlled aircraft. Our airspace will be closed to every Russian plane. We will ban in the European Union the Kremlin's media machine.
All right, so that is the EU response to Russia and the various sanctions that have been announced. So let's just get you more details of that. And Germany is sending 1,000 anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. Italy has sent 110 million euro to Ukraine as mark of solidarity. And EU has proposed cutting off some Russian banks from the SWIFT banking system. Also, as was mentioned, nations have shut their airspace to Russian aircraft one by one. And acts of solidarity with Ukraine across the world. Tens of thousands of people took part in protests in downtown Madrid as they demonstrated against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Protesters gathered in the Spanish capital waving flags and banners aloft as they marched towards the fountain. Local authorities said 40,000 people participated in the protest, with many Ukrainian residents taking to the streets. They were also joined by Spaniards and other people from other nationalities. Scattered fighting was reported in Kiev and battles broke out in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Two Spanish aircrafts took off from an airbase outside Madrid carrying supplies to Ukraine. The military aircrafts were loaded with personal protection equipment and sanitary supplies which are being sent to Ukraine as it continues to fight the Russian invasion. Spanish Foreign Minister also visited a crisis center which is helping Spaniards caught in Ukraine as the conflict continues. Scattered fighting continues to be reported from Kiev as well as the second largest city in Ukraine, Kharkiv. Ukrainians fleeing the Russian invasion continue to arrive in Slovakia, where waiting volunteers showed their support to those whose lives are being shattered by the war. Since the invasion began, volunteers have flooded to the border from far and wide with donations of food, toys and clothes. Slovak soldiers deployed to help the border guards cope with the influx were amongst other activities helping to carry luggage. Slovakia has offered to provide accommodation and other aid to Ukrainians. The UN Refugee Agency said Sunday that about some 368,000 people have fled the country since Russia launched its attack.